or call out the state militia, usually at the bidding of employers. At the time, one of the nation's largest unions was the Industrial Workers of the World, also known as the Wobblies. The IWW had members in critical industries across the country. In April of 1917, when the United States entered the war, the government feared the threat of a labor strike from such a large number of workers that would put in danger or even hold up war production. Officials in the relatively young Department of Justice determined that a more coordinated strategy would be necessary. To prevent stoppages, the DOJ embarked on a sweeping new effort, replacing gunmen with lawyers.
The Houston Midtown chapter of the Society for Financial Awareness presents Money Matters with your host, Christopher Hensley.
Good morning, everybody. You're listening to Money Matters on KPFT Houston. I'm Chris Hensley. The time is now 11 a.m. Central. We got a great show lined up for you today, and it's actually been a few weeks here. We have been over the summer extremely busy, and so we've done a couple of rebroadcasts last month. We're back on track again, and so we have a great, fresh, timely topic today. Here in Texas, this week there was an article that came out on CNBC about Wayfair, which is a company that provides mattresses, and the employees of Wayfair decided to stage a walkout from their employer based on the fact that the mattress company had supplied mattresses to the border detention camps here in Texas. With timely news like this, we are in the middle of a political season here. Why does this matter? Goods Unite Us is an app and a website that gives consumers the political affiliation of brands and companies so that they can align their everyday spending with their values and beliefs. They are based in Madison. Why is this important to us? Because for every dollar that we knowingly donate to politics, corporations are giving away $3. This is not good because it completely undermines our democracy. So please stay tuned. We will be speaking with Abigail, who is the CEO. Abigail Wuest is the founder and CEO of GoodsUniteUs.com. It's an app. Please stay tuned and keep listening. She will be joining us very, very shortly. But if you are a long-term listener, you know that we always reserve just the first few minutes of the show to tell you a little bit about what's going on here in the Houston and the Gulf Coast region when it comes to financial literacy. So, not much right now. We're actually kind of Houston Money Week ended. There is one more partnership leadership meeting for Houston Money Week at the beginning of July, and so after I attend that, I'll share information with you. But Houston Money Week, as listeners know, it is a financial literacy movement here, located in, I want to say Houston, but it's actually spread further than that. It's mostly the Gulf Coast region. We've got people up in Conroe and the Woodlands and Huntsville, and so something that started over 10 years ago, Houston's representation of Financial Literacy Month has expanded and grown over the last 10, 11 years now. And so we have all kinds of different partners. We've got the nonprofits. We've got banks that are doing their community reinvestment work. We've got corporations. We've got schools. When I say we've got schools, we've got elementary schools. We've got high schools. We've got a lot of the colleges, University of Houston, Houston Community College, Prairie View A&M has participated in the past. So lots of universities who have who've supported and helped with Houston Money Week. So all of that to say that Houston Money Week will be April of next year. However, all of our partners always have events going on that are free and open to the public all year round. So I'd like to point people to our website, which is www.houstonmoneyweek.com. moneyweek.org. If you are looking to attend any of those events, that calendar is dynamic. It should be updated throughout the year. And separate from that, there's also assistance available with one of our partners, United Way, through their 411 line. So if you're looking for financial counseling, credit counseling, that sort of thing, they can always point you to one of the nonprofit organizations that's doing work in that area. With that, let's go ahead and get our guest on the line. Abigail, are you there?
I'm here. Thanks, Chris.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Of course.
So usually I kind of start the show the same way. I always share your bio a little bit with listeners there, and you are the founder and CEO of goodsunitus.com. You are also a government attorney and former local politician. You grew up in a very politically active family, and you care deeply about the fair and transparent elections, which we have going on, or we're getting ramped up for right now.
We are, yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe outside of that bio, so we can get to know you a little bit better?
Sure. Well, yeah, I was born in Wisconsin, and as I said, I grew up in a family that was very engaged, kind of local politics, and my family really cares about a bunch of different social issues, and so I grew up with that engagement. And I think as I got older, I went to law school. I decided that really the way to affect some change was through our elections, and so I ran for local office, and then I sat on the county board here in Dane County in Wisconsin, and it's pretty eye-opening. The whole process is pretty eye-opening. And I think that it really helped spur Goods Unitus, which was founded initially by my husband, really came up with the idea, and then he and I kind of developed it together, kind of forming the idea of how do we, after the election, the last presidential election, how do we really start to tackle the negative effects of corporate money influencing politics so as to kind of protect the democratic process. So that's kind of like our thinking at the beginning of this process. And we're both, my husband's an attorney as well, and we're both pretty engaged in these ideas, and we wanted to figure out a way that we could kind of just help the system of democracy, lowercase d. And so, yeah, that was kind of our thinking there. And as I said, as you mentioned, I'm also part-time. I'm a government attorney here in Wisconsin, and my husband works for a private firm. He's also an attorney, and yeah, so that's kind of our background.
Well, I love it. I like the idea. I've always thought that we vote with our dollars, and so if that's the case, well, how do we know where our dollars are actually going?
Exactly.
Tell us a little bit about how this app works. I've got in my head, I've got some things that I think it would be very beneficial for people to use it, but tell us a little bit about how it works.
Okay. Yeah, maybe I'll start. Initially, we were first thinking about maybe having purchasing sites, and that's kind of how the company first started, where you could actually go and buy products that were from companies that supported your political beliefs. We soon realized that that's not really what people wanted. People really just want the information. And so we kind of decided to pivot a little bit into it's almost like a reference transparency type of company, where we want to help make accessible campaign and political donation information from companies to consumers. So the app is really designed to make it easy for consumers to get a glimpse of how corporations and their senior employees are spending money in politics, how they're affecting politics. And the idea is that when you go out and make your daily purchases, we think we need to start paying more attention to the fact that those consumer dollars are having an effect on our elections. And we're in a time right now, politically and legally, where corporations have protected speech, and so they can donate lots of money into the political system to affect elections in a variety of different ways. And at Goods United, our aim is to start shedding a little bit of light on what these corporations are saying with their dollars that are really, those dollars are coming from all of us as we consume products. So we want to help individuals and consumers protect their vote, and this is a big part of it, is kind of protecting the integrity of your vote by not undermining it every day when you go out and buy toilet paper or something like that. Because what we see happening is you vote once or twice a year officially, but you're really voting with your wallet every single day. And what we want to help voters do is keep from unknowingly undermining that vote by funneling money into candidates and PACs that do not support the causes they believe in. So the app is it's a great app. It's very simple. It's a free app. It's all free. And so what it does is you can search companies, and now what you can also do, which is really interesting, especially in light of the upcoming presidential election and the primaries, you can search by politician. So you can also search by a certain politician and see what companies have been supporting that politician. And so that's a really nice feature. If you don't want to just affiliate yourself with a whole party, but you want to go more case by case, you're a person that just goes person to person, you can also kind of use the app to help you steer clear of brands that maybe support a candidate you really don't like or such.
Wow. I'm just smiling really big here because when I was in college, one of the first assignments that we had in political science was to, through the Freedom of Information Act, order transcripts of which political action committees had donated to a politician. So we would just randomly, just randomly pick a politician. And when I actually got that in the mail, this was a long time ago. It's printed out on this printer paper, that very long, and it was just tons and tons of these different parties. Some of them were from the left, some of them were for the right, to the same candidate. And so technology's progressed so much now that this is something that you can do with this app. I find that amazing.
Yeah, right. And this is all publicly available information. It's just not very easily available. So what Good Unitas is trying to do is just making it easy for people, getting it all in one place. And then we also provide what we call a campaign finance score, which is a score that we've come up with that kind of weights how this brand or company affects the possibility of campaign finance reform. Because at Good Unitas, our main goal is to align people's spendings with their vote, to protect their vote. However, we also care a lot about campaign finance reform because we think that is one key thing to protect the integrity of the democratic process in general, is we need to get some of this money out of politics. And so the campaign finance score is a separate score that we provide that kind of gives you an idea of how buying from this company might affect campaign finance, given a couple different factors. So one of the main factors is how much money does that company contribute into politics. So the level of contribution, which matters a lot, as opposed to, there's a lot of companies that donate just a little bit to a party you might not like, and that might not be a big deal to you at all. But it's really the companies. There's a group of companies that are very high contributors, and that's really important for people to know.
Absolutely. I know as a financial advisor, this comes up quite a bit. There's two different ways to look at it. We'll have people that are values-based through maybe their faith, and there's actually we can't invest in anything that's in defense, or we can't invest anything in tobacco or something like that. Is there a way to go in particularly by that or by company, I guess?
Sure. Yeah. We thought at the beginning of this company whether we should try to take on individual social issues or value issues, and we decided pretty quickly that we couldn't do that with any level of real thoroughness and accuracy, just because it requires too much different data. So we made a choice to go purely politics. So you're going purely on who are they donating to in terms of politicians and PACs. And one of the things we think is good about this approach is that all of those other policies that we care about, all those social issues and those value policies that we care about, really are made and created by politicians in this country. And so the most effective way to affect change, if you care about unions, or if you care about gun control, or if you care about education, or if you care about whatever is the issue you care about, is to go to the top and get people elected that will further that change. And so that's kind of what the app focuses on, and limiting our focus then to politicians. We think you can kind kind of go right to the source, and it also allows us to limit because we hand curate all this data, so we can actually have a very thorough database on this, and we can ensure accuracy on it much better than if we were to. There are some companies who have tried to go out and actually give you a score based on a whole variety of different social issues, and I think that's a much harder thing to do well.
That made this question pop into my head here. Have there been any companies that have pushed back since you've made this information available, or any politicians?
Yeah, we haven't had any contact from politicians yet, other than some positive comments from people. We have gotten a little bit of pushback from a handful of companies that were upset with the results of their score or their percentage. And it's actually been really interesting, and we really welcomed the feedback from them because it showed that they cared, which is great.
Right.
And it also, we were able to tell them that, we will recheck the data, but the data is a publicly available FEC data. And so really your problem is with either the government sites that put up the data, or the data's right. And, then you need to look at your contributions. And so it's we're really trying to be a little, full disclosure, my husband and I are fairly progressive, but we are really trying to make this app a much more nonpartisan app, and we really do have an equal number with a lot of followers, and we have a lot of followers who describe themselves as conservatives, and a lot that describe themselves as progressive, or liberals. So it's used by everyone, and that's what we want, because everybody deserves to have accurate information.
Absolutely. If the companies are turning their head to this, then it's working.
Exactly.
That's a litmus test that this is actually something that to look at, and that it's working there. That's fantastic. One of the things you mentioned was that the active users, that you've actually gotten quite a bit of active users. Tell us how you've witnessed that growth since the app has rolled out.
Right. We noticed pretty quickly that once we got the app rolled out, we have a website and an app, and they both get a good chunk of users. We're finding a lot of people really enjoying the app because it's very user friendly. And right now we're at the stage of the company where we're still just growing our user base so that we really can get this message to affect as many people as possible. And it's very important to us to keep it free. So at this point, it's all free. And so we've had a really good response with that, and we've been able to grow our user base quite a lot. And yes, it's been a really interesting process. A lot of it is just getting the word out. So we've been doing a lot of advertising on the app, and it's a wonderful time to be in this area because of the election coming up. It's just very exciting. So people are very engaged, and it's fun to be able to push out social media posts that can remind people that they can check all the Democratic primary candidates' donations. They can actually kind of do their own little fact check if they want to see, are they accepting PAC money? Are they, things like that. So that's kind of fun.
How important is it for these companies to be held accountable and to have that level of transparency?
So I think the transparency is very, very important on a very basic level to, again, the integrity of our form of government. If we want elections to really represent the voters' will, then we need to shed light and have transparency on how corporate money and different sources of money are affecting those elections. In turn, the idea is that then consumers can choose not to put their money into those companies and further what those companies how those companies are affecting politics if they disagree with it. And I think that it's just there's going to be some very basic things in this country that we need to do to really protect our system of government. And I think we're at a point in time right now that's on a lot of people's minds, including politicians. And I'm really hopeful that we're going to have some changes in that regard where we can really make sure that our elections are fair and transparent. And to the extent that there is corporate money in politics, that we can have enough transparency on it so what it doesn't do is really dilute your individual vote too much. So I think it's very important. I also think it's good for companies to be held accountable. And in some ways, I think it's really good for them, too, because the amount of money that most of these companies are putting into political campaigns and PACs is so small compared to their revenue and their profits. And our hope at Good Unitas is, maybe some of these companies that have just kind of historically been giving a bunch of money will say it's not worth it. It's not worth alienating a whole section of our consumer base, because there's actually a lot of companies whose political leanings are very different than their consumer base. And so the hope at Good Unitas is that will maybe gently spur them to say, yeah, it's not worth it. We won't engage in politics. We'll let voters engage in politics. We'll step back and we will make shoes, or we will do whatever we're doing. So I think it's important for voters, and I also think it's not bad for companies. And it's also, there are companies that are very, very proud of their political contributions, and that's fine too. If they want to make contributions, I think it's actually good for a company to do it in a way with a lot of integrity and transparency and thought.
I really I would encourage people to go to the website. It's www.goodsunitas.com and check this out. I didn't mention this before the show, but one of the rules of the show, since we're public broadcast, is there's no price points here. So this is one of the you can't say my book is $9.99 or the app is $10.99. Yeah. But this is free, so
free, yeah.
So I can definitely promote people to do due diligence. Come and check this out, and it will actually help you do your due diligence on people that you're looking to elect and see where that money is coming from. What surprises came up when you guys rolled this app out as you went through this process, maybe even with the companies that you researched or even just the process of the app? What surprises came up?
Well, we had to kind of stop and really think about how we wanted to, what information was available, how we wanted to convey this to people, and what was most important to people. So I don't know if we had as many surprises. I mean, we had lots of development surprises, which luckily I am not the one developing this the technology, because they've had to overcome a lot of different things just to make a lot of the features available. But on a larger scale, I think our main struggle is figuring out how to get people what they really want to use that furthers our goal. And so that's kind of been we've been tweaking that ever since the inception of this company to try to figure out, okay, how do we keep the data really accurate, and how do we maintain integrity as a company? Because as you grow, it's very tempting to, we need to figure out revenue models, and we need to figure out things, and being able to, as we grow, keep that integrity that we want to, and that we don't start undermining our own goals as a company. So that's all been interesting stuff, and we've had to, being a company that really does pride itself on being kind of a social interest type of service, we have to keep that in mind continuously as we grow.
Absolutely. I think any business, as they go through growing pains or rolling out technology, there's always going to be, surprises and roadblocks there that come up. And,
yep.
But to get the kind of growth that you guys have with over 100,000 monthly active users are using this app now through social media, and what are some of the feedback that you've gotten from users, either through email or through people who said, hey, I've used the app? What kind of response are you getting?
We're getting great responses, and that's one of the things that's been, I think, the most fun about this company, is we have great testimonials of people every single day that email us, hey, I bought a different car based on your app. I saw this car brand, didn't like their political contributions, so I went this way. And that's a big deal. So I think we've seen lots of people that have, say, for years I wore New Balance, but they give way too much money to the GOP, so now I'm doing something else, or vice versa, people who are in support of that. So it's been really interesting to see how much people care about it. And that has really given us a lot of hope that this app has a lot more room to grow, too, and that we're achieving something here, because people really are starting to change consumer behavior based on these political contributions. And I think that that's wonderful. We had a lot of people tell us at the beginning that, people won't really change their spending. But I think that's not true. I think it will take a while for some people to incorporate that into their routine, their consumer routine. But as we've been seeing from our hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, thousands of emails, people are doing it all over the place. So it's been really fun.
Well, I love it. I'm on the website now, and I'm looking at the articles that are attached to it. And as you mentioned, it's nonpartisan, and there's Republican, there's Democrat, there's the
Yep.
companies there, and I can see with the score that you guys have, the better the score, it's better for the company, it's better for the consumer. Tell us a little bit more about how you come about that score. What are the kind of the data points that you're looking for?
Sure. The score is it basically comes down to how much they're putting into the system, so how much they're donating, and who they're donating to. So this is one reason why we have made the score not the focal point, because we do want to keep this somewhat nonpartisan. But from a campaign finance perspective, donations to Democratic candidates have a much, much, much higher likelihood of furthering campaign finance reform, just historically speaking, from the way votes in the past on campaign finance reform have come down. So the campaign finance score some people feel as though it's a little bit more partisan, but it really is based solely on how does this company's spending contribute to the future of campaign finance reform. And so those are the two elements, really. Who are they donating to? They get the biggest negative is how much. So if you're not donating much to either or just donating a little bit to one or the other, their campaign finance score is going to be much better because they aren't getting in the way of campaign finance reform. And then the second element is who are they donating to? If it's mostly Democratic politicians in favor of campaign finance reform, their score is going to be higher than if they're giving to candidates that have opposed campaign finance reform. So that's kind of the breakdown a little bit.
Well, that is a good thing to know as we enter into the election year. I know we have the debates last night, and are you able to tell how much traffic you get? I'm curious as to whether you get spikes in traffic after.
We do, yeah, and I don't have our Amy, our COO, is really the person who's on top of that. But yes, I do know that we do get really interesting spikes in traffic. We got a huge spike in downloads right before the last election, and so that was really, really interesting. And we're hoping to be able to do that again with the next presidential election as well, and really be able to get people engaged on that level again. So it's been really interesting just looking at the data points and seeing when are people active on the app and how are they using it. Really says a lot about when people are caring about this type of issue.
We've got just a few minutes before we're at the end of the show here. How has your background as a government attorney and a former local politician, how has that played in this as you've rolled this out?
So I feel like our team of three people really is Amy is our COO. My husband Brian is really a huge force behind all of this, but is titled just as a founder. And then myself as the CEO, we have a really nice complementary triangulation of personalities. And my background, my political passion and my background in politics a little bit really makes me the person that focuses on what are the goals of the company, how do we maintain those goals with integrity, what do we really want to do here, what do we want the transparency to lead to, and kind of just talking about the overall overarching issue of transparency of corporate money in politics. So I'm really the one who focuses on those issues. And then Brian and Amy focus a lot more on the technical issues, the financial issues, fundraising, and figuring out the app, et cetera. So, and really my background in law, but even more my background just in politics has really shown me how important it is to have fair and transparent elections, because it just matters so much in terms of actually translating what we want our country to do into actually doing it. And if you really want the people of this country to have a voice and a vote, then we need to protect that.
I love it. I love it. We are in the last minute here. We're speaking with Abigail Wuest. She is the founder and CEO of GoodsUnitus.com. That website again is GoodsUnitus, all one word.com. I encourage people. And in the last 30 seconds, is there anything I've forgotten to